Hello and welcome to Odds Serie A Matchday 37 and Coppa Italia Final as well. Daniele Fisichella, special week in Italy. How are you?
Yes, it is. Hi, Edu. It is a very special week, and few things have happened in the last few days. Of course, I'm referring to Juventus being deducted 10 points and now being 7th in the league. There's been a few surprises in the last match day, and yes, of course, tomorrow, Wednesday, in Rome, Fiorentina, Inter, the holders against Fiorentina, who are also the finalists of the Conference League. So obviously a special occasion for both teams, to be fair. So both teams, of course, both finalists in the respective European competition. And if the game is half as good as it was last year final when Inter won 4-2 into extra time, I think we're in for a very, very good spectacle.
Well, let's jump into the games. Remember, guys, to leave your comments, your tips, and of course, press the like and subscribe. And now let's go on with the show. And we are going to start with this Coppa Italia final on Wednesday, 9 p.m. Olimpico di Roma, Inter Milan, Fiorentina. Danny, for those who want to place a bet in this game, I have good news. Perhaps it's risky going for the full-time market, but the odds are huge, really huge. 3.9 for Inter to win, 4.02 for Fiorentina to win. Inter, of course, more experience in this kind of games. And as you mentioned in the beginning of the video, these teams can win 2 titles this season or in the next 10 days, actually.
Well, I think the odds that you mentioned are absolutely great for Inter to win in the 90 minutes, 390. But yeah, they're very, very big because I think the bookies are expecting a balanced game or a game with a few goals. And we know that Inter have been scoring many more goals lately. And Fiorentina, they are never dull this season. I don't think they never played a 0-0 draw, and they are always a team that scores a couple, create chances. Had they been scoring all the chances or most of the chances they created, I think they would have been much higher in the table. But look, if you want to look at some value, I think you can look at the over 2.5 goals, 206. You know, in the league, it finished 4-3 for Inter in Firenze. The return was 1-0 for Fiorentina, but Inter had a million of chances, and some of them were very good. So the over 2.5 goals, I think, is a decent value. Both teams to score 186, midweek game, end of the season. The odd mistake could creep in there, but I think these are definitely my favorite. If you look at the Asian handicap, maybe it's a bit difficult because obviously it's a plus 0.5 for Fiorentina, so you have a double chance, 192. But if you think it might go to extra time, which possibly could do, also the double chance for Fiorentina, I think is very, very appealing.
Well, to win the title depends on the bookie, but more or less is like 1.5. For Inter, 2.75. For Fiorentina, for the full-time market, actually depends on the bookie. I mentioned those odds that are huge. Usually,
yes.
Danny, are around 2. For Inter, that looks more likely.
Yeah, that looks more likely, I think. I mean, 295 is a lot.
2 for Inter, 3.7 for Fiorentina, depending on the bookie. I read the highest odds, but the average, if you go to your normal bookie, Bet365, Big Win, you will find odds around 2. Well, good luck. Great game. Of course, Inter thinking as well in the Champions League final, Fiorentina in the Conference Cup. But now it's time to analyze Serie A. Danny, on Friday, we have a sad game. We have many games with nothing to play for in this penultimate match day. But Friday, we have the first one, Sampdoria, Sassuolo. Sampdoria going to Serie B and still losing 5-1 to Milan. Is their last chance to feel the pride against their tifosi, Danny. But of course, the season they just want, I guess, to pass and to play next season to try to get the promotion again.
Totally to forget this season for Sampdoria. We spoke at length about the issues outside the pitch. Look, they got the worst home attack. 9 goals, only 1 win in the last 5. Against Milan, they conceded some comical goals. And they play a Sassuolo side that, yes, they lost, but they are often entertaining. 56% of Sassuolo games have been over 2.5 goals. 4 of the last 5 both to score. Yeah, he could expect Sassuolo to go for it and maybe rack up a couple of goals against this poor Sampdoria side. But maybe look for individual markets. Berardi scored 10 goals this season, 113 in total in Serie A. If he scores 3 more goals, he will overcome the likes of Cassano, Cavani, Mertens. So, some personal record. But what about Quagliarella? Scored his first goal of the season in Milano against Milan. He's been injured a long time. He's 40 years old. He might retire in June, and he's the 14th goal scorer of all time in activity in Serie A. So of all time, between players that still play, don't play, is the 14th. If he scores other 2 goals, he will overcome Batistuta. So he will become the 12th goal scorer of all the time in Serie A. So if there is a penalty, probably Sampdoria is going to leave it to Quagliarella in the last 2 games. But, in terms of betting here, in terms of the angle, it's very, very difficult. I think you need to be cautious with these games that don't mean absolutely anything. And I'm going to be cautious. Double chance, X2 and over 2.5 goals. That pays 229. That's a very good price for Sassuolo not to lose the game, and over 2.5 goals, 229. Of course, if you want to be a little bit more cautious, go for X2 and over 1.5 goals, considering that most of Sassuolo games this season have been over 2.5 goals.
Indeed. Also nothing to play for in the Salernitana Udinese, although here we find the good odds for Salernitana.
Yes.
They showed again that they are able to do absolutely everything this season at the Olimpico. On Monday, with that draw, they are strong at home, and Udinese, Danny, they lost the last 4 away games.
Salernitana already saved thanks to their attack, because they scored 12 goals more compared to last season. We got Abdoulaye Dia with 14 goals this season. He's been a great player, a real revelation. Only lost 1 of the last 13 Salernitana, so be careful. Okay, they draw most of them, but they always scored in the last 10, and I could imagine them scoring a couple of goals here against Udinese. They are struggling when they need to hold on into leads. Often they concede late goals, but it's a side that definitely has improved last season, and the change of manager definitely benefited. They play more expansive attacking football. Let's not forget this season, last year he finished 4-0 for Udinese. That was the last game of the season, but Salernitana yet managed to be saved, so maybe they want to take revenge. Udinese against Lazio, I think they were okay in the first half. They created some good chances. They couldn't finish them. They do lack the finishing touch. They were really unhappy about the penalty that was given to Lazio. A lot of polemics. Both teams are in the top 10 for both to score games this season. Over 50% of games of both teams have been both to score. Udinese, yes, they are struggling for goals. For example, their top scorer, Beto, no goals in the last 7 games, missed 4 games because of injury. Maybe it's a good idea to go for Beto to score. And I think, again, very careful here, 1x and over 1.5 goals, that pays 208.
Let's go to the important ones. Spezia,
Yes.
Torino. Spezia 1 point more than Verona. They drew against Lecce. The final game is against Roma. At least Roma will be thinking in the Europa League final, Danny. But Torino, they are dangerous away. They won the last 3.
Yes, they have won the last 3. And if you look at the away table, they would be 4th this season. So they are doing much better away than at home. And away, they have more points than Roma, Inter, and Juventus. Have scored 8 goals more away than at home. How do you explain that? Well, Juric says we play the same way, but I think it's because Torino, not being a high-scoring side, let's not forget this is a team that has never scored more than 2 goals in Serie A this season. They are more set up to play away and on the counter. They are unbeaten in the last 5. 12 goals for Sanabria. This is another unsung hero of this season. Had to fill some big boots, the one of Belotti, and he showed the Paraguayan to be really up for the task. I would expect him to go and move to a better, bigger team in the summer. They want to finish 8th, Torino. It means nothing because they cannot qualify for Europe, but they want to finish as close to Juventus as possible, as close to the European position as possible. Only 33% of their game have been over 2.5 goals, so expect another tight one. Spezia, 14th draw of the season, 0-0 at Lecce, 2nd consecutive clean sheet, but I think they're going to live to regret that 0-0 because the next game is Roma away. Difficult to pick up 3 points at the Olimpico. I think it's difficult even for Spezia to pick 3 points here against Torino. Maybe they can pick up a point, and that will put them 2 points above Verona. But Verona got a game against Empoli at home. They average 1 goal per game at home, Spezia. I think they're not going to lose this one. It's going to be a Torino Asian handicap 0.
Spezia playing against Roma in the last match day, and Roma playing against Fiorentina in this weekend. Roma, of course, thinking in that Europa League final on Wednesday, but still they can qualify for European football in the league, Danny. But we saw against Salernitana on Monday that Mourinho doesn't have a long squad, and of course they are thinking in that game against Sevilla.
Turnover against Salernitana, that was obvious. He left a lot of players out. But despite the turnover, Roma lately have been struggling to scoring goals, to find a good form. No wins in 6 in the Serie A. And then let it slip. They were 4th in the table. They had a poor form in Serie A and let it slip. And I think they're going to kick themselves because with Juventus being deducted point, I think they could have come above Milan and Lazio. But maybe that shows the Mourinho side in terms of squad is not as deep as others. Look, this game is going to be played before the Conference League final. Last year, I had a look. They also, this is going to be played before the Europa League final. Last year, when they played before the Conference League final, 5 days before, they went to Turin and won 3-0 against Torino. But last year, they needed the points to finish 6th. This time, they don't need the points, and they might make a massive turnover. Last year, Mourinho didn't do it, only 4 changes to the formation. I think this time he's going to make 10 changes, 11 changes, and he's going to rest everybody because obviously if they win the Europa League against Sevilla, they go into the Champions League next season, and that's the best bet for them. So it would be crazy to think that Roma, they have got no chances to finish 4th, basically, are going to play a strong squad here in Firenze. But Fiorentina, on the other hand, are going to play this game 72 hours after the Coppa Italia final, which we don't know how it's going to go and whether it's going to go to extra time. So this is also unfair on Fiorentina playing so close to the Coppa Italia final, considering they also need to play the Conference League finals soon against West Ham. So there is obviously a fixture congestion. They're unbeaten in 5 at home. Are they going to make turnover? So if everyone is going to make turnover, this could turn out to be a bit of a dull game, really. It's not been a great home season. They only scored 28 goals domestically, but I'm going to give them the upper hand here. I'm going to go for a 1x. So again, a bit of cautious there, and over 1.5 goals, which pays 217. I think Fiorentina probably is going to make less changes than Roma, and that I think pays well. 1x and over 1.5 goals, 217 for Fiorentina not to lose, and normally they do score more than a goal.
Maybe it's time for the Primaveras, no? This could be.
Yes, but the Primavera of Roma is very strong, and Mourinho has been picking up players from the Primavera as well. But you know, it is a game. Last year, in similar fashions, Roma went to Firenze with not much to play for. They lost 2-0. So I think this is pretty much the league for Roma is pretty much done and dusted. Obviously, the last game at home against Spezia, they will not want to lose that one, but that comes after the Conference League finals, so the Europa League finals. So let's see how it goes, that one first.
Well, a key game is Inter-Atalanta. This is a very important one because Inter, they are 5 points away from Atalanta. Right now, Atalanta, they still have a chance to qualify for the Champions League. 3 points away from Milan, and of course, same we can say, this game comes in between the Coppa Italia final, the Champions League final, still 10 days away from Inter, but they lost, Danny, at the weekend against Napoli, as we expected, and Atalanta were able to win their game against Verona.
Yes, and obviously the fact that the Juventus got the points deducted is a massive boost for Inter, who now needs only 1 point to qualify. So with a draw, they qualify for next year Champions League, and they need 2 games to do that. Atalanta, on the other hand, they got the chance to maybe get closer to Milan this weekend, considering that Milan goes and play in Torino. But yet, if they finish level on points, Milan will qualify because they're head-to-head, so they need to really make 4 points up on Milan. It's going to be very difficult for Atalanta, who have squandered a few points in the way. But a finish in Europe, a finish 5th or 6th for Atalanta is definitely a very good result. Obviously, Atalanta are going to be fresher. Inter plays in Rome in Wednesday. Let's see what happened with the Coppa Italia. They lost at Napoli because they made a lot of changes, but also they were holding their own until Gagliardini got himself sent off. And then Inter managed to equalize with Lukaku, but a stupid goal conceded. Well, it was a wonder goal from Di Francesco, from Di Lorenzo, but they were a bit naive, leaving him to shoot even with his weak foot to the left. So again, maybe a defeat that won't matter, but it's the 12th defeat in Serie A this season. Atalanta, when they came to Milan and play in the Coppa Italia a few months ago, they made a huge turnover. Didn't start with Højlund and Lookman, which seemed the most logical idea. They lost 1-0. Inter were able to fend them off. I don't think this time Atalanta are gonna make turnovers, and I think they're gonna go for it. They are better away than at home this season anyway. In the last 5 games, 2 wins, 2 defeats, 1 draw. The away form, they won against Lazio, they won against Roma, 3-3 against Juventus, lost to Napoli and Milan. So it's a little bit hit and miss, but often there are plenty of goals in these games. Both sides, 47% of games have been both to score, and over 2.5 goals. I think they're going to be goals in this one. Inter are unbeaten in the last 9 against Atalanta. As I said, the draw will make them happy, and will be obviously means no Champions League football for Atalanta next season. Over 2.75 goals, that pays too.
Okay, important game this one for the European spots. On Saturday, let's jump into the games we have on Sunday. Verona, Empoli, key one for the relegation battle. This is a must win for Verona. They have to end the season against Milan away, so they have to beat the Empoli. But Empoli, Dani, they are ending really well the season, and not only for the 4 goals scored against Juventus, but also before they were having good results.
10 points in the last 4 for Empoli, 3 wins in a draw. A great performance against Juventus. Juventus stunned, confused, because they received the news of the minus 10 points deduction just before the game. But Empoli were really, really, really sharp. And this is despite not having Baldanzi, one of their strikers who's playing at the Under-20 World Cup with Italy. But, Ciccio Caputo, a late resurgence in terms of goal scoring. And yes, Empoli have confirmed all the positive aspects they show this season. Verona, they lost against Atalanta because of a goalkeeper mistake, Montipo, who gifted the 2-1 to Pasalic, but they did look a little bit shaky as they were trying to push on. They left a lot of gaps at the back. This is a must-win game for Verona, because the last game for Verona is away at Milan, and Milan will probably need at least a point to secure a Champions League qualification. But if Verona draws this one, Spezia loses, they go level on point, and then they're going to be the playoff is they finish level on point. So Verona's got a big advantage. They play after Spezia, and they know exactly what they need to do, considering also that Lecce is involved in the fight for not getting relegated. 61% of Verona games and 63% of Empoli games have been under 2.5 goals. 86% of Verona games have been under 3.5 goals. They don't score many goals, Verona, really. I think I'm going to go for a both to score here. Verona really need to win. Empoli, they're not going to be a pushover. 1.99, both teams to score.
Verona, they lost the last 2 home games.
Yes.
This is a must win. The odds are very low, actually, for Verona to win. But, of course, they need the points. Nothing to play for in the Bologna Napoli, with Bologna thrashing Cremonese in the last game. They end up a streak of 6 winless games, and Napoli also beating Inter, Dani, after losing to Monza away.
Yes, they needed the win, but the news in Napoli and the mood is a bit down, because it's pretty sure 99% that Spalletti is leaving at the end of the season. Disagreements with De Laurentiis, 2 strong characters that cannot see eye for eye. I mean, Spalletti was close to be sacked last season when Napoli weren't doing great or as expected by the president. They're going to go. And, now the search for the next manager is on. They're even talking about bringing back Rafa Benitez. They did struggle against Inter for an hour. Then with the man over, Napoli created more chances and were worth winner. They're still on course to beat the record points, 91 points. They need to win to make the record of points Napoli this season. Depends what kind of mood and what kind of mindset they're going to go to Bologna and play. The last game is at home against Sampdoria. I think now Spalletti is going to make more changes. This time is going to give even more spaces to the players who haven't played much. Kvaratskhelia, by the way, no goals in the last 9 games. Maybe it's one to watch to finish with a goal either this week or next week against Sampdoria. Bologna usually are very good against top teams at home, beat Inter, drew against Milan, drew against Roma, Juventus, Lazio. The return of Arnautovic is obviously welcome. They scored 5 goals against Cremonese. He scored as well. 11 goals of the season for Orsolini, who, by the way, it is suspended. I think this is going to be, again, a goal fest. Probably nothing. It's going to be, there is nothing to play for. Bologna going to have a go at it. Napoli might be able to hit them on the counter as well. Over 2.5 goals, 204.
Oh my God, bringing back
Benitez. The names are Benitez, Conte, Klopp, or Thiago Motta. So there is a wide spectrum of expertise, style, in terms of kind of manager they're looking for.
I cannot see Benitez back.
I doubt it. But you never know.
Let's see. Well, next game, also important, this one, Monza Lecce, because Lecce is involved in the relegation battle, 3 points away. They drew the last 2 against Spezia and Lazio. Last one is against Bologna, and Monza, Danny, they keep getting points, unbeaten in the last 8.
Yes, that's the longest unbeaten run in Serie A and always scored in the last 8 games. If they win, they beat the record, or if they draw, let me double check actually classification. If they win, they beat the record points for newly promoted sides in Serie A, which is 54, Chievo Verona in 2002. Now, amongst the newly promoted sides in the 5 major European leagues, Monza are the ones who got more points. They are 8 in the table. They cannot finish 7 because they are 7 points away from Juventus, but they could consolidate this very good 10 spot with 14 wins this season, 46 goals scored, 46 goals conceded. That tells you, always an entertaining side to watch. And Lecce, the opposite, 69% of their games have been under 2.5 goals. They could be saved even with a draw. They have obviously the big chance because they play after Verona and after Spezia. The last game is Bologna home, which I think they're going to probably win. Lost only 3 of the last 7. Are they going to go and lose this one? Maybe they are. Monza, Asian handicap 0, pays so well, 204. If he ends in a draw, you get your money back.
Good one. Then 2 more games, nothing to play for in this one. Lazio Cremonese, because Lazio, they are already in the Champions League next season. Great success for Sarri.
Yes.
They beat Udinese, and this one against a relegated team already, as we all know, Cremonese.
They would have been in the Champions League next season despite Juventus being deducted point. So with a win, they will be for sure in the Champions League. And at the moment, they are second. 20th clean sheet for Provedel. Clean sheet number 20 for Provedel against Udinese the weekend. So really, really solid Lazio. A Lazio that's been able to find a good balance. It will be interesting to see in the 3rd season of Sarri how they evolve. A goal for Immobile. They scored back-to-back. That's the 191st Serie A goal for Immobile. He's the top scorer in Serie A for the players who are still playing. Lost only 1 of the last 5 at home against Torino in unlucky circumstances. Cremonese, well, they finally crumbled. They are relegated. Conceded 5 goals against Bologna. They got the 2nd worst defense, 35 away goals conceded from home. I think Lazio are going to win this comfortably. It might be a low-scoring game. You might go for Lazio win and under 3.5 goals. I'm going to go for Lazio to win 2-0, which pays 2.
And last game is a good one, although a bit sad. Juve Milan with the points deducted to Juve again. Danny, is this final, by the way? Final decision?
They might want to appeal it. They said they want to read the motivations and they might want to appeal it and go to CONI, to the Olympic Committee, but that's going to be the last degree of judgment. By the way, in mid-June, there's going to be the verdict about the other trial, the one linked to the wages and the wages unpaid, but the points might be deducted for next season. It looks like Juventus are going to play Conference League at best next season, but all depends also in the results of the other European teams. They're probably going to settle for a season without European football, and that's it.
Well, then a very sad game, this one. And after the defeat against Empoli, even more for Milan, Danny, still they have to win to nail the Champions League spot.
They have, because Juventus can still finish above Milan if they win the last two, and the next one is against Udinese. But the Juventus we saw against Empoli, I don't think he's able to do that. Also Allegri said this has been a torture, knowing not knowing how many points you got. I just want this to end. So I think Juventus are gonna probably finish the season maybe with 2 draws or with a win and a draw, seven spot, and rebuild in the season. That was the 9th defeat of Juventus this season, which is the first time they lose so many games since 2011. So despite Allegri saying, okay, Juventus on paper, they're still second in the table, they lost 9 games, and this is a very bad record. 6 defeats in all competitions since April. We saw them against Sevilla. They do create chances. They also been unlucky, but they have such a passive mindset. They just tend to retract behind the ball and defend against top side. They will struggle. Milan is here top side. Well, away from home, they've been very average. 6 wins, 6 defeats, 6 draws. They scored 22, conceded 23. So they've not been as good as last season at all. Only 1 win in the last 5 away. They need to win here, really, to make sure Atalanta doesn't catch them. If Atalanta wins and Milan loses, they will be level on points. So still will have the parachute because they won the head-to-head, and they're going to probably finish level on points, so qualify. Anyway, top for both to score, Milan. 61% of games have been for to score. They managed to concede a goal even against Sampdoria. They are unbeaten in the last 4 against Juventus. I'm going to go for both to score. There might be the usual reaction of nerves from Juventus, the anger. Remember when they were deducted 15 points, the following game finished 3-3 against Atalanta. Maybe something similar, maybe 2-2. Both to score. Juventus, Milan, 193.
I'm sure both teams are very sad after their season. Very disappointing.
Well, I think Milan is still overachieved, I think Milan is still overachieved if you look overall at what they did in Europe.
Yes,
and what they did last year, I think they overachieved. But yeah, in the league, Milan have been poor. They didn't defend the title well at all. 10 defeats 8 defeats in Serie A. It is quite a lot for Milan. Will score less goals than last season for sure.
Indeed. Well, Danny, let's jump into your safe bet for this match day.
My safe bet is for the game in San Siro, Inter Atalanta, over 1.5 goals. He pays 125.
The best game we have this weekend, in my opinion, and the ACCA.
Spezia Torino double chance X2, Fiorentina Roma double chance 1x, Lazio to beat Cremonese to qualify for the Champions League, and Juventus Milan over 1.5 goals. Total odds 455.
Good luck. Only 1 week left in Serie A. So, of course, to follow our videos, don't forget, press the like, subscribe, and see you next week. Bye-bye.
Ciao.